Newstalk 1340 KROC-AM. Good morning. I'm Andy Brownell, Rochester Today on a Tuesday with Tom Ostrom. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Hope you had a great weekend.
I did, and you did.
I did. Went down to La Crosse and saw the adult daughter at her college town. And boy, it was a nice day. It really was a beautiful day.
Good.
Not so nice today, but that's the way it goes. At least we had a nice weekend. 282-1234 is our number, and as always, Tom, we'd like to start on the mailbag, so I'm going to throw it right at you.
I met a man. He's a peppy, nice guy, and boy, is he a football expert. Kyle Kruger. Kyle Kruger is the president of GCP, Queen City Panel, and they do the drywall paneling inside, and then you see some of that paneling on the outside of buildings now. He does that, too. Kyle Kruger listens, and we thank him for that.
Okay, so is he a Packer fan or a Viking fan?
Vike.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. He's
having a tough year, too.
Yeah.
Of course, you lost as well this week.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Of course, people predicted that. New Orleans is pretty good.
Yeah, especially if you're playing in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if the heat's a factor for Packers and Vikings once in a while. But then they always say cold is to our advantage, but warm state teams have whipped both of our teams in the cold weather, too, and home field. So I don't know what weather
That was kind of a good weekend for me. I mean, the Vikes win on
that was
kind of an entertaining end to the game. And then we had both your team and the Dallas Cowboys losing.
Right.
So that always makes it that, it was a good weekend.
And it was kind of fate, the pendulum. Minnesota won in the last minutes of the game, and the previous week they lost in the last. So it kind of was a little bit of justice there.
Very sarcastically, I say it was a solid win.
Uh-huh.
A lucky win. Okay.
Oh. That's the mailbag. Then we have state news to start.
Okay, well, we do have a call here, too, Tom, so let's go to the phones right away. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Good morning.
Morning.
I was enjoying your conversation. I wanted to raise an issue, and please bear with me. I'm not so young, and I want to keep my thoughts straight here. So, and this has to do with the election with the congressional district, the first congressional district. So this really goes to everybody, whether you're a Democrat or independent or Republican. So in the country, as everyone knows, we elect someone to represent us. We pay for them to go to Congress and protect us. So I really don't understand any longer why we would want to have a congressman who first hides what was in the bill for the health care. He hides as he made it. And then once it's passed, without ever him reading it, or if he ever does, and then, after he knows what's in it and what stuff is bad for us, and how it will hurt many of us, his constituents, he goes 3.5 years from the time of the signing until the time of the start of the Health Care Act without ever telling any of us things to be careful of, to watch for. For example, that they might lose their insurance, and how. So he sits on it that long. Bill comes, and in fact, it is harming people without their warning.
All right.
And then he expects for us to re-elect him. I don't understand how anybody could have that kind of nerve.
Okay.
Why should we? How can we trust him?
You made your point well. I take it you'll be voting against our congressman.
Well, especially with Obama in 2 more years.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. I can't add anything to that. He's called a couple times. He's very clear that he's not going to vote for Congressman Walz next Tuesday.
Yeah, well, yeah. And President Obama is not welcome in a lot of Democrat campaigns, but he is going to Wisconsin because Scott Walker, the governor, is in a tight race.
Oh, yeah.
And the unions are out to destroy Walker. They still can't get over him, even though he's improved the economy of the state and the school systems. And so President Obama is going to show up there to try to put a political knife into him. But I was going to start with state news. St. Mary's is one of the 4 Minnesota hospitals tabbed to treat Ebola, and with, of course, the reputation of the Mayo Clinic, you can understand that, and the University of Minnesota Medical Center, West Bank, also is one of the hospitals that will.
And on a related note, Thomas, tomorrow Tracy McRae and myself will be in the studio, and it's our pleasure that we've lined up Dr. Pritish Tosh from the Mayo Clinic. He is an expert on Ebola and other infectious viral diseases, and he's one of these people that's consulted worldwide on this sort of thing, and he will be spending some time with us and hopefully providing us with some darn good information as we continue to deal with this outbreak worldwide of Ebola. And we'll find out what he has to say. I'm very interested to hear what he has to say.
Well, that'll be a great program because there have been missteps and miscommunications and changing communications. The nurses at Bellevue Hospital are calling in sick because of that physician that's there with Ebola. And it's funny that Governor Christie of New Jersey and Governor Cuomo of New York, they want to quarantine people that come back from the healthcare workers, and the White House put a lot of the Ebola czars nowhere to be seen, but they're putting pressure on the two governors not to quarantine them. But the governors are saying, okay, we'll quarantine them, not in a hospital then, but they both are saying we're going to quarantine them in their homes. And one nurse complained and was going to sue them. Then she went off to her home state, and they said they're going to quarantine her too. Meanwhile, U.S. military troops deploying to West Africa to fight Ebola are going to be quarantined when they come back. The major general that runs the operation said, I'm going to do that for their safety and mine, and we're going to be quarantined when we come home.
And that really won't be difficult because most often you have that decommission time anyway, where you are brought back to a base and you spend that time before you return to your normal activity. So they'll just have to step it up another level and keep them separated from the general population.
That's right.
But I'll point out that the difference what Christie did and what is happening in other places, they grabbed this woman, and I can't speak for her, but they placed her in a tent, basically.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little extreme for what was going on, and she was not symptomatic or anything like that. Now, in Minnesota right now, if she were to come back and she had documented exposure to the virus after being overseas caring for people with Ebola, she would be placed in home quarantine as well.
Well, that's going to be what they do in New Jersey and New York. Healthcare workers coming back, they have been in contact with patients. They should be checked or monitored, and some say in their homes is enough. But, the United States is already limiting passengers. So many mixed messages here. The Department of Homeland Security itself is limiting flights carrying passengers from the West African countries affected. It's a slight change to flight traffic, but they're doing it. And so it makes sense to monitor healthcare workers too.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
But I had I don't know if this is it's probably not even funny, but a listener sent me the cartoons. He knows I like them. A newscaster saying the Ebola-affected nurse further damaged White House credibility when she revealed the incompetent government that allowed her to travel despite her symptoms. And to set an example and to prevent similar incidents from occurring, the administration dispatched a team of IRS agents to audit the nurse. Okay. But anyway, some disease experts are saying, look, that virus can be aerosol transmitted with fluids, and there's so much we don't know, which is why these instructions are ongoing, and the experts like you're going to have on tomorrow have to educate us all.
But I will say, when you say aerosol, what is usually talked about when you're speaking with an infectious disease, aerosol means you inhale it. Not that you expel it.
Yeah.
It's the inhalation. But we'll talk about that tomorrow with the expert.
Sure.
282-1234. We do have a quick call before we have to take a break. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Good morning. Am I on?
Yes, you are. Hello, David.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Dave.
I got two things. First thing is serious. A long-time friend of mine, and I wish he was here in the first district, is running for U.S. Congress. He's currently a Minnesota state senator. He happens to be blind. Tory Westrom. Great guy. I met him 6 months after he lost his sight in a car accident. But I did wish he was running down here, and I know he's got a brother down here who's in construction, so he's a beautiful guy, and he's a good Republican. The other thing is, I'm a solution to the ISIL and the Ebola.
Okay.
Send the ISIL people to West Africa. You do them both in. Take care, guys.
All right, David.
Yeah, thank you.
We have to take a break.
Thank you, Dave.
It's 22 minutes past 10 o'clock and 45 in the downtown. Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs. The 4th Street location is open. It is still Customer Appreciation Days. That's easy to tell because they're still open. So that 25% discount on all items on the menu will continue as long as the root beer stand location is open for the season. And I'm afraid to say that time is running short for that. So get in there and enjoy all of your Roscoe favorites, the best burgers around, the fish fry, and all the wonderful barbecued entrees, the barbecued pork, chicken, ribs, and Tom, you had the barbecued turkey as well. 25% off Customer Appreciation Days at the 4th Street location of Roscoe's.
And you can call ahead, get your order to be ready when you arrive. And remember, there is a covered and heated seating area at the A&W stand at Roscoe's on 4th, so you can always be comfortable. And get that 25% off Customer Appreciation, the great burgers, the fries. You got to stop by, and they appreciate you, and that's why they're giving you this wonderful deal at the original location on 4th Street Northeast.
That's Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs. Again, it's Customer Appreciation Days until the root beer stand closes for the winter. But also remember that the North location by Shopko North is open all year round. KROC-AM, 45 degrees in the downtown. High today near 50, a low tonight mid-30s, and then we should see sunshine tomorrow with a high in the upper 40s. Again, it's 45 right now downtown Rochester at KROC-AM. I'm Andy Brownell with Tom Ostrom on a Tuesday morning. 282-1234 is our number if you want to join the conversation. And we do have a call. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi.
A few things I'd like to make a comment on this Ebola. One, this was a privately run hospital that screwed up in Texas. That wasn't the government. And I will
disagree on one matter. The CDC even admits that they should have been down there a lot quicker to help that hospital deal with the situation. That they've already
agree.
Okay.
But if you're a medical facility, you should be able to know that. But your point is very well taken.
Your point is well taken as well.
Mark Dayton also yesterday announced plans for Minnesota. And the other thing that happened because of all this coverage, this 24-hour news, and both liberal and conservative talk, people pounding on this, we now have more government bureaucracy. We got an Ebola czar now, which we don't need, but now we have one, and that's going to migrate into a $1 billion government agency. Wait and see. And I think one of the problems on this is this. There's not as much fear in this as, people are just way overreacting to this. Ebola's been around since 1976, and Africa has probably had about 15 outbreaks since then. One more quick thing, and then I'll hang up.
Sure.
Nigeria, Ebola-free. You know how they got that? They closed the borders.
Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very little AIDS in Cuba because they quarantined them. There's a history of quarantining people for illness in this country. My grandmother back in the early 1900s couldn't go to her daughter's funeral because she died of a disease that was communicable, and they wouldn't let her go to the funeral.
Mm.
She was quarantined. So I have no problem quarantining these people, and I'm a neutral Obama person, but he needs to step up to the plate on this one.
Yeah, and
we have an absolute mess.
This is hurting him. An Ebola czar that's a politician, not an expert. But
Right.
you've given a very balanced account of the extraordinary complexities of all this. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. It brings up the quarantine business. When I was a kid, I do remember, and I was quite young. We had a bacterial pneumonia thing move through our house. And our family was actually, we didn't have a big sign on the door that said, you can't leave or anything, but they advised us all, you just stay home. You guys don't go anywhere. You don't need to be out in public. You don't need to get everybody well before you do anything. So I guess it was somewhere along the same lines, yeah. And that was pretty commonplace to do that back then. Oh,
sure. And then chickenpox and measles, too, invited that kind of treatment, yeah.
Well, Mr. Ostrom, we already have to take our break. It's already 10:30 in the morning, and it's time for a news break after we talk about our friends at Carol's Cup and Carol's Corn in the subway level of the Kaler Grand Hotel. And, of course, Carol's Cup with the frozen yogurt and all the delicious toppings, self-serve, out at the Apache Mall food court as well.
Oh, the seasonal flavors at Carol's Cup and the subway of the Kaler. They've had things like peach yogurt and pumpkin pie taste, and they'll even listen to your suggestions and try to come up with something. They even have breakfast at Carol's Corn. The fresh rolls and granola bars and munchies. They got those gift tins. You can go in and get your favorite popcorn, watch them make it, and smell it while you're doing it. Have a cup of coffee while you wait, and they'll put it in a tin or bring you some. You take it home or bring it to work or mail it off. And then it's fun to be in there and fun to choose the corn. They've got so many varieties. Gourmet popcorn is what they're noted for, and they cater to local and national clients, but like that caramel with cashews and the Chicago mixed cheddar cheese. What an array.
That's Carol's Cup. Carol's Corn, again, you'll find them in the subway level of the Kaler Grand Hotel downtown Rochester and at the food court with Carol's Cup at Apache Mall. News Talk 1340 KROC-AM. Good morning. I'm Andy Brownell with Tom Ostrom on a Tuesday. It's 24 minutes away from 11 o'clock. And, Thomas, we do have a couple calls and one very patient caller who's been on hold all the way through the news break. Good morning. Thanks for holding on.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to say something about, I got two things. How come that the Democrats get all their money from Soros, but nobody says anything about that? And how come Timmy Walsh was supposed to be for veterans, but he didn't know what was going on in the Veterans Hospital? I don't think that's very good for his, well, he shouldn't be elected anyway. But why didn't he know what was going on if he's so great about veterans? I think the only thing he was trying to get more stuff for himself. I'll hang up and listen.
All right.
Well, your point's interesting, and Obama, by the way, had information about disease in the Center of Disease Control and warnings that the Center of Disease Control had to buck up and be ready for infectious diseases, just like he had warnings about ISIS and this Veterans Administration hospital scandal. Yes, they were warned about that long ago also, even in the Bush years. So your points are well taken.
Yeah, and I understand the connection that he sat on this committee and had probably more intimate knowledge of this than most people would have had. I think it's a very valid criticism of the congressman. But now he's out touting that he's saving the VA. But on the other hand, the thing that really bothers me about the VA situation was that, as you pointed out, during the Bush years, we had reports that there were inadequate facilities, especially for returning veterans with closed head injuries or even psychological issues to be dealt with. That was already building during the Bush years. Then magically, when we started talking about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, we were pointed to the VA system as, look, this is a system that is working wonderfully. Look at how spectacular a government-run healthcare system is working. And then we had that for about 2 years. We heard, well, this is a great model. Look at how they've computerized their system, and they do this and they do that. And then it was all just smoke and mirrors. And that is one that I am disappointed is not being brought up more. But the Soros thing, the George Soros thing, is talked about. Maybe not extensively, but it is discussed.
Well, wealthy Democrats are always okay, but wealthy Republicans, they're the bad ones. And Harry Reid himself, he's a multimillionaire. How did he get that being in the Senate? And by the way, ethics charges against him were lost. A Freedom of Information Act inquiry into the Senate Ethics Committee. Said, we've sent you things on Reid and his land deals and his sons, and where's the actions? And they looked in their records and said, we never got it. Boy, that government knows how to lose stuff.
Lost. It was on a hard drive. We lost the hard drive.
Learner's hard drive.
Hi, good morning. You're on KROC.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hey.
Well, got a number of things here. Well, first is Tim Walz. I'm really happy to see his commercials telling me what he's for and what he believes in. But every time he votes with Nancy Pelosi. So what does it matter what he believes in? And Al Franken, and how can you vote for a man with no sense of senatorial courtesy? The way he disrespected Joe Lieberman from the chair was just beyond the pale, and people should remember this is the one man most responsible for Obamacare. He was the last vote. As soon as he got elected and got to Washington, there it was.
Yeah, the 60th vote, this man who won an election after a recount for about 300 votes. You're right, he's something else. That guy, he's kind of hiding, isn't he?
You brought this up. I jump in here before it leaves my brain. There was a report over the weekend that this group had analyzed statistically as best they could. And this was in the New York Times, in fact. The impact of illegal votes on elections and votes cast by non-citizens specifically. And they did some statistical extrapolations. And they pointed out that it appears, as well as they can guesstimate, that approximately 6% of, I think that's the number that came up, and I'm pulling this out of my head, 6-point-something% of non-citizens will participate in any given election. And then they specifically pointed to the Minnesota Franken race as one of those races, those close races that very well could have been decided by non-citizen votes.
Exactly. The Washington Post is talking about that, and Professors Richmond and Kulshan Chatha of the Old Dominion University and George Mason University have got it. And it said that we find that some non-citizens participate in U.S. elections. They said more than 14% of non-citizens in both the 2008 and 2010 samples indicated they were registered to vote. And some of those non-citizens did vote. Don't know how many did. I can't see it here, but
there was
about 7% they figure did vote. So, of course, there's fraud.
It was, but when they applied it to these close races, and there was another close race down in the South that they said could have decided the power balance of the U.S. Senate, that they looked at it, they thought that it could have had an impact on that as well. Mm-hmm. I wish I had more information.
Oh, sure. And then it said of the 27 non-citizens in this survey who indicated they were asked to show picture ID, such as driver's licenses, at the polling places that are the states that require it, had various kinds of ID, including phony IDs, and some were allowed to vote when they said they didn't have any. Sure, there's fraud.
Interesting.
Have you noticed the deafening silence that's emanating from the office of the Surgeon General? And we shouldn't need a political spinmeister for a czar. We have the Surgeon General, whose job that is, and when a Surgeon General does tell the truth, like Jocelyn Elders, she gets fired.
Well, there's the Surgeon General who's disappeared. You're right, and then there's there's Health and Human Services has a physician who's in charge of infectious diseases, and no one hears from her either. So you're right. You wonder what's going on.
If he actually wanted a czar, he should have appointed Carson, Ben Carson.
Oh, got Dr. Carson. That'd be something, wouldn't it?
Not going to happen. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. We have another call, Tom. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Yeah, as long as we're talking about Al Franken and fraud in the same sentence, the thing that I remember mostly about his election was that they had an election judge who just happened to find some ballots in the trunk of her car. Now, I don't think she probably was a Republican election judge. And then they happened to find some more ballots. I don't remember how many she had in the back of her car. I think it was like 50, 75. And then they happened to find some more ballots in the janitor's closet or something like that, and everything was counted. And I thought, when something like that happened, those ballots were just automatically thrown out because they couldn't be verified that, something funny hadn't happened to them in the meantime.
Yeah, I've read about that too, and absentee ballots are used after the fact when they're needed, and there have been cases where election vote counters have been found with pencil lead under their fingernails, and they're going through those ballots, and they can make little marks as advantageous.
For the life of me, I can never remember, or I could never figure out why this man was not called illegitimate as far as his election.
Well, he's staying in the weeds. He's not coming forth for public debates much. In fact, both. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say that when the court settled this, the court settled it, and you have to look back to the Bush-Gore thing too. And when the court settled it, they settled it. And every time the courts have to settle these sort of things, there's going to be recriminations and bitterness on both sides. The beauty of the system is we have another election that will come up in a period of years to take care of the issue that the courts had to somehow decide on. Whether they made the right decision or wrong decision, a decision was made.
That's right.
And that's all I can say. I know what you're saying because, there was a lot of shenanigans. There were sealed ballots that we've never seen because the court said we're just not going to deal with it because we have no clue as how to deal with this.
And let's face it, the court justices and judges, the appeals courts, the federal courts, they're political. It isn't that they're great judicial scholars that are objective on these courts. They're political, and the split decisions are always along party lines. And that's part of the so-called judicial system, too.
It's part of the monster, yeah.
But anyway, I've never forgotten that. And I thought, how in the world can someone be so underhanded? Because for me, those ballots should have been all thrown out. I hate to disenfranchise the voters that voted that way, but they shouldn't have counted.
All right.
Okay.
And the surprising thing is a lot of people have forgot 6 years later.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey.
Tom.
Hey.
I wanted to mention Franken, too. His commercials just really bother me. I sent you a note about this, I think, Andy. But
oh, you did? That's right. This is John, isn't it?
Yeah. It seems to me, if you're an investment banker, your firm is hired to consult, you'd be remiss in your duties if you found a perfectly legal tax loophole and didn't use it. On the other hand, if you're a sitting United States senator and you oppose tax loopholes, seems to me you'd be remiss in your duties not to write legislation to close it. I mean, he's the one in a position to do something about it, yet he's chiding McFadden for taking advantage of it. Who's doing their job here?
As is usually the case when it comes to political advertising, it's all misleading.
Right. So, anyway, have a great day. Love the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the call. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Morning, guys.
Hi.
You seem to hit a vein here of interest in the population, and I appreciate that. You mentioned that you thought that Franken was laying low. Didn't you see the Hillary campaign cameos on TV last night? He was the guy behind her trying to hand her a bottle of water, and she was swatting him away. So, no, he isn't really he's serving his master. So, anyway.
I did not see that.
Let's go, guys.
Thanks a lot. All right. Good morning. You're on KROC. Hello. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes.
You are on. Yes. Thanks for calling.
Okay. With our senator there, wouldn't it be true that prior to being a senator, he was kind of earned his living as a master of smut?
Franken, yeah.
Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah, he did. He had anti-gay humor. He had sexist humor against women and
I was
parts.
thinking smut is more pornography, and he wasn't doing that. He was doing racy humor, maybe.
Well, that was what he was all about prior to becoming a senator.
Well, if he were a Republican, those quotes would be coming back with more frequency in the media, you can bet.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks
Double
a lot.
Standard.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. I would argue that those inclined to vote for Al Franken would not really care what he did as a comedian on television.
Yeah.
That's just part of his persona. In fact, it might make them actually more likely to vote for him. 282-1234 is our number. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Yeah, good morning, Andy.
Morning.
Say, are they going to try and bring back the voter ID?
From Minnesota? No.
Yeah.
No.
I wish they would.
I think where the state legislature is right now, there's no chance in that happening at all.
Then if the Republicans get control, we can do it then.
Well, they would have to control the governor's mansion as well.
And courts have to go along with it. In some states, they have voter ID because the courts have said it's okay. Other states, they don't because they said it isn't. So,
Wisconsin came darn close to having it, and the judge put it on hold.
Yeah. It seems to me judges have too much power. How can unilateral judges, a single person who could be as biased as anything because they're political too, overthrow referendums and make these unilateral decisions? To me, they have more power than they should.
There are some who would agree with you, Thomas. Thanks for the call.
Bye.
Good morning. You're on KROC.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Hi.
Hey, I think I haven't been listening to your program very much this morning. I just picked it up now and listening to the McFadden and Franken debate here. I think the bigger issue is why are our taxes in Minnesota so high that the corporations are leaving Minnesota?
Well, Governor, we were talking about Governor Dayton insists we're a great business climate and nationally highly rated as a business climate, and the other side has statistics to indicate the things that you're bringing up. So you wonder where they get their stats.
Well, once again, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors when you look at political ad season. The one telling statistic that I think people need to pay attention to is our job growth rate in the state of Minnesota is among the lowest in the nation during this latest economic recovery. We have gained jobs, but we've gained them at a slower pace than almost any other state and at the slowest pace in the upper Midwest. And if you start to really break down the jobs, a lot of the job gains have been for part-time temporary positions and not the higher-paying positions that are so coveted. So, yeah, there has been an economic recovery, but in comparison to other parts of the country and even the region, it's been a rather anemic recovery in Minnesota.
And then the black unemployment rate is double what the white unemployment rate is. They don't seem to be alarmed by that. Or some of their leaders are speaking out because President Obama evidently has got green cards. He's preparing for another onslaught of illegal immigrants. And, in fact, the Immigration Officers Union is sounding alarm over the White House order for millions of blank work permits and green cards. And the head of the union said not only is this a threat to employment and wages in the area, but it's for our jobs, it's a threat to us in terms of danger and national security, getting those borders so open. In fact, what was it? An illegal immigrant killed 2 deputy sheriffs in California, and he'd been deported twice. So open borders, I think people are getting tired of all of the government ineptness on national security issues. Even women are not soccer moms anymore. They're voting, evidently, some polls say, on safety issues.
But the interesting thing about these polling numbers is as angry as people are at the Obama administration and dissatisfied, you're right, it's more and more across the board as well. And at this point, they're more inclined to support the Republican candidate, at least as far as control of Congress is concerned. The same polls show they hate the Republicans almost as bad as they hate the Democrats at this point. So it's not really a positive for the Republicans. It's the lesser of evils.
But some bright conservative women are coming to the fore, and I think our party should feature them and focus them. And they're saying the war on women isn't coming from this party.
All right. We have to take a break before we get out of hand here, Thomas. We're getting behind. It's 46 in the downtown. Yeah. Victoria's Restaurante and Wine Bar, downtown Rochester. Don't forget, they're there. Their catering is excellent. Give them a ring. You've got Christmas parties coming up, holiday parties, work events, weddings, birthday parties, you name it. Victoria's can help you out. Just give them a ring and go through the options on the pasta bar, and they'll set you up and help you have a wonderful event.
And, in fact, probably an election party would be fun to ask the Victoria's crew to come over. And I know Jason down there is a manager, and he's an expert on catering. He handles daytime catering, office catering, and celebration catering, the pasta bar style with the options, the entrees, the salads, the dressings, the baked rolls are great. The wines, the platters with different appetizers, salads. They can provide the food and the staff. And so you can call Victorious today, 280-6232. That's 280-6232. And book your next catering event at Victoria's or at your home.
That's Victoria's, downtown Rochester. Your official Weather Eye forecast brought to you by Mystic Lake Casino. Tickets are on sale now to see Christmas with the Celts. Mystic Lake, Saturday, December 20th. Enjoy holiday favorites with a Celtic twist. Get your tickets now at mysticlake.com. Expecting a high today, $50 with the clouds sticking around. Overnight low tonight, 35, becoming partly cloudy, and partly cloudy tomorrow with a high in the upper 40s. Mid-30s, the low Wednesday night. On Thursday, a high in the mid-50s, but it's going to be windy on Thursday. We get to Friday, sunshine, and a high only in the low 40s. Saturday's high, mid-upper 40s with sunshine, and a chance of rain on Sunday with a high in the low 50s. Right now in downtown Rochester, it is cloudy and 46 here at KROC-AM. 2 minutes away from 11 o'clock, Thomas, and we are almost out of time, and you got a couple topics, or at least one topic we're going to try to get to.
The Fast and Furious cover-up where the government was involved in gun running to Mexico and to keep track of, I suppose, the criminals, and then some of those guns got in the wrong hands, and hundreds of Mexicans were killed, and an American law enforcement officer was killed with one of the guns. And Freedom of Information Act documents. Eric Holder covered that up and lied about what he knew when, and the Congress held him in contempt. The DOJ, Justice Department, still trying to withhold documents. Another judge has gone after them and ordered him to produce documents. But Freedom of Information Act documents, Holder was writing to his wife about things. The president didn't throw me under the bus, And Valerie Jarrett emails show that she was in the middle of this. She is really President Obama's behind-the-scenes guru, and she was in the Fast and Furious, and about the issue. She was talking about the issue and how to defend against the issue and how to. She didn't say cover. She's too sophisticated for that. But Valerie Jarrett was a key player in the effort to cover up Attorney General Holder's lie to Congress about Fast and Furious. So these things dribble and dribble, don't seem to do much damage. But I think collectively all these scandals are beginning to seep into people's minds about this administration is either inept or corrupt.
I think the Valerie Jarrett part of it was probably the most significant revelation from that Freedom of Information Act release that occurred last Friday, that this discussion that, this is an internal Justice Department thing, and we're handling it, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. Well, obviously, you had communications at the very top of the chain when you have extensive email exchanges on this issue with Valerie Jarrett. That tells you, I would say that at that point, you have a pretty good inkling that the president has some involvement in it, if she had that level of involvement. And once again, it goes back to the cover-up. You had a botched operation. You messed it up, okay? Everybody knows you messed it up. It wasn't a good idea in the first place, and then it was not implemented well. It went awry. Bad things happen, and if they own up to it right away, this whole discussion would not still be going on. You would have had your lumps back then, and you would have dealt with the embarrassment of it. But that's not the way it works.
And this is supposed to be a law-abiding law enforcement agency, DOJ.
KROC-AM Rochester. It's 11 o'clock.